percenter club is set the goal of being better than 99 out of every 100 people. Be in the 1%, right? And that's achievable, right?
This is Morgan J. Ingram here, host of the SDR Chronicles. Super excited to bring you guys Keenan today. He really doesn't deserve that much introduction. You guys know who he is. Sales trainer, has a book out, speaker. He's super fired up. I met him in person, and his energy does carry over. So, guys, this is the guy you want to listen to. But without any further ado, I'm going to let him talk a little bit by himself, and we're going to go on the topic of the day of how to be a 1%er in your role today.
You want me to talk about myself? Shoot, I don't know. What do I say? I'm not good at talking about myself. I don't know. I drink Red Bull. I wear red shirts. I talk about sales. I drive people crazy because I call it the elephant in the room, and I call people on their bullshit. How's that?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So let's go into the first question. So you kind of talked to me about this a couple times, and I've seen a couple blog posts on it, seen a couple videos. The 1%er, what does that actually mean to you? And why are you talking about this all the time? Why are you fired up about this?
So yeah, 1% is my new thing because I absolutely love it. Because look, social media has created this whole world of motivation. I mean, not created, it was out there, but has put this whole world of motivation and inspiration on freaking steroids. I mean, you can't go through an Instagram stream without seeing 50 posts on, motivation and hustle and grind and find this and do this and be the best and work your ass off and blah, 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 right? And I love it all. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I felt it started creating these worlds that were overwhelming to people, right? But I also realized there was some truth to them, because if you want to be successful, you got to work your ass off. So my whole idea of the 1%er came into this idea that, look, there only can be one best. There can only be one Tiger Woods. There can only be one Lindsey Vonn. There can only be one LeBron James. Right? And oh, by the way, you're not going to be a professional basketball player. 99.99% of people aren't going to be the superstars in anything. You're not going to be the CEO of GE, right? Let's take it to business. You're not going to be the next Gary Vaynerchuk or Simon Sinek. I mean, you're just not. But that doesn't mean that you can't be badass. That doesn't mean that you can't be really good. So what the 1%er club is set the goal of being better than 99 out of every 100 people. Be in the 1%, right? And that's achievable, right, dog? I mean, there are 14 million salespeople in America. If you're in the 1%, you're one of 144,000. You can do that.
And so, but let's step into the next part of it, right? So you said that, hey, look, obviously you're not giving the next Obviously, those are talents that are given to you, and that's a lot of hard work that goes into that. So let's kind of talk about what are things that you should be doing daily to get there, to get that 1%.
First off, it's a mindset for starters. I mean, forget about what you got to be doing daily. We'll answer that question second. You got to have a mindset that says you even want to improve. The 1%er journey starts with the idea or the humbleness that says, I'm not as good as I could be, or I need to get better, or I want to get better, or I need to improve, or I need to learn something, right? It's not accepting where you are, but it's taking a deliberate approach to recognizing that I need to move myself forward in my capabilities, my skills, my talents, my knowledge, etc., and move myself forward in my deficiencies where I'm not good, with the things that hold me back, my blind spots. It's being self-aware enough to know that you're not as good as you think you are, that there's tremendous amount of room for improvement, and then committing to actually wanting to improve and improving. So that's where it has to start, right there.
So yeah, so the mindset, I think that's obviously the biggest thing, the positivity, the momentum, and the motivation that you're putting into that. So how are you gaining that? Is it I'm getting this from a mentor? Is it my friend? Or do I just need to be self-aware to realize it's time for me to step up?
I think it's innate, right? You got to sit back and ask yourself, are you where you want to be in life, right? And I'm pretty comfortable saying that 99% 99% of people in the world aren't comfortable where they are in life, but don't do anything about it, right? So, or they look at it in the wrong way. They look at the end game. Like they may want to make more money or have a better job or have a better spouse or a better relationship with their kids or live in a different town. I don't fucking know. But they're not happy with where they are, and they see this thing way out there, like it's overwhelming to them. So they shut down and they start building this fake facade. I guess that's redundant, but this facade about their world and convince themselves they're happy or convince themselves it's what they want. So they don't have to get real with themselves. They don't have to look at themselves and say, I'm here because I screwed up. And, oh, by the way, I'm not moving forward because of the decisions I'm making. They don't want to answer those questions. They don't want to do those things, right? It feels good just to come up with these excuses and this bullshit and do short-term shit, like save a few bucks on vacation or go have a few drinks or watch a football game or binge on Game of Thrones and convince themselves they're thrilled. The truth of the matter is they're not. And they're not being self-aware enough and real enough with themselves that says, wait, I can grow a lot more as a person. And as I grow as a person, I am then in a position that allows me to get closer to that end game. Everybody's looking at the beginning and the end. Nobody's spending much time in the middle.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so kind of want to talk about you for a second. Obviously, you have that 1%er mentality. How did you yourself get there? And what were the steps that you took to get to that point?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm not even a religious man. I think I saw in your thing, you said God first. I didn't realize that surprised me, but that's a whole different discussion, right? I'm not a religious man. Yeah, I'm not a religious man, but I do give thanks to what I was born with, right? And I was born with a lot of very, very, very lucky traits that I don't believe I had a lot to do with, right? I'm almost 50 years old. And I'll be 50 next year, and I don't work out, but I don't gain weight. I can't make that happen, right? That's a gift. That was just a gift. I got lucky, right? I'm 6'2", not 5'2". I can't change that. That was a gift, right? Well, I think one of the gifts I was given was this sort of competitive nature, this idea that I don't like to sit still. So ever since I was a little kid, I was constantly trying to get better. I think first as a kid, it was competitive. I didn't like to lose. So to keep from losing, I got super competitive. But as I got older, I just realized that I can do things to move myself forward. I can get better. And so I just didn't want to be average. I didn't like going out somewhere and just blending in. So in order not to blend in, I had to get better. To get better, I had to learn to self-assess, and it just all took off from there. So to be honest with you, I think I just got lucky. It just was innate to me to always want to be better.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big thing. And I think like the biggest factor for me has always been, you know, obviously I think you get certain talents and you God-given, whatever you believe in. And when you get those, you almost have to inherently act upon those, because if you don't, it almost is selfish if you don't. Like, it's almost like you have these things, so like you have to act upon them. And I think those are the people who have inner drive. Like, I've always had that to some extent, but I think it's tougher for some. It may be right. So you have to make that mental shift to be that 1%er if you do not have that innate, like, I want to go get it and crush everybody.
Yes, and you know what's interesting? That's one of the reasons I came up with the 1%er. You make a great point, right? It takes a lot to go out and, like you said, go out and crush everybody. But I say stop trying to compete with everybody else. Just compete with yourself. Start there, right? Start competing with yourself. If you can get good at competing with yourself, you don't have to worry about everybody else. And just ask yourself, am I okay where I am now? Am I okay with the amount of knowledge do I have? And if the answer is yes, the next question would be why?
Yeah.
Why am I okay knowing if I'm an accountant and I know this much, why am I okay only knowing this much? Why don't I want to know this much more? And why don't I want to know this much more? Why do I stop? What is it about me that says I am satisfied in my job knowing everything I know right now, and I don't feel much of a compunction to know anything else, right? And then to soften that blow, it's 1 out of 100, not 1 out of 1,000,000. 1 out of 100. So you take 100 people, you only have to be better than 1 out of 100. That's not overwhelming.
No, it's not.
So you can do that. You can't just default into that. I think people can default to being above average because most people don't even try, right? So I think you can default to be above the 50 line, but you can't default into the 1%. You have to work. Now, and it's attainable. It's absolutely attainable. And that's how I help people get over the mindset. Like, it's hard. Well, 1% is not hard. 1,000% is hard. That's Lindy Vaughn. Yeah, that's hard. But not being 1%, 1 out of 100, come on.
Yeah, very, very obtainable. And so there's a couple things there, right? So I want to dive into. The first part I want to dive into is, like, obviously you're now can identify a 1%er probably very, very quickly. So what are the 3 characteristics that you see in a 1%er?
I think it's a 2-part question. So there's the characteristics I can see in people who want to become 1%ers, right? And then there's the character, right? So people who are 1%ers or trying to be 1%ers, and then there are people who actually are the 1%. And the reason I say that is this. So I like to use skiing. I'm a big skier. I teach skiing. I went to a ski camp this past week. Yeah, I just went to a ski camp. Okay, perfect, 1%er. I went to a ski camp to learn to ski moguls better. In June, I spent a week with some of the best mogul skiers in the world. As a matter of fact, 2 of the guys I spent time with, one is a silver medalist in Sochi, and the other just finished is 4th in the world. And one of the finished silver medalists, he's number 1 in the world, is expected to win gold, right? So these are the literally. His name's Mikhail Kingsbury, and I was talking to him, I'm like, dude, is it weird? Do you think about it? There is nobody on the planet that's better than you.
Yeah, like you're the guy.
Yes, think about that.
Yeah.
There's nobody on the planet that is better than you at what you do. I mean, that's crazy. What do you
That's crazy.
that? Right? But anyways, I was going with that is, so I can look on the mountain and I can see somebody and say, okay, that person is better than 99% of most people. Now, he or she may have had skied their whole life and just got better over time. So they're a 1%er, but they may not have a 1%er attitude. Do you see what I'm saying? They just, through repetition and doing something they enjoyed over and over and over, got to a 1%er. Or I can find somebody who's not a 1%er, who's on that journey, who's like constantly asking for questions, taking lessons, signing up for ski instructors, reading about it, watching videos, and every year I see him get better and better, right? So there's 2 answers there. So the one about a 1%er, those people are people who are self-aware, right?
Right.
They are people who are committed to learning. So they have plans, they have goals, they're humble, right? And that's probably the third one. I'll go to that one. But they're really committed to the learning journey. They do what's called deliberate learning. They know what they do. They know what they need to do to get better. They don't learn by mistake. They learn deliberately. And if it's 1% of skiing, it's I don't ski off-piste well. I don't edge well. And so I'm going to learn to edge better. Not just I'm going to go out and ski more, right? It's very deliberate in what I'm going to learn. And then I think the last one is humility. I'm going to write a blog post on that today. You have to have the humility to say, I'm not good enough. You have to have the humility to say, I need to improve, or I failed at that. Yes, you have to have humility.
And I think you bring up a great point there of the 2 sides of it, right? Of just like someone could have 1% talent, but not 1% work ethic, could have 1%er like drive to get there, but may not have the 1%er talent. So obviously you're going to have to learn a little bit more. But if you're deliberate, it will get you to that point. And so I know that you've talked about this before, is you got super fired up in one of your videos about, hey, like people, you go to sales trainings and you kind of see like the old vet in the room, like who's been in the game for 10, 15 years. They got their arms folded and they're like, I don't need to hear it from this guy. So are those the people, though, that are just in the middle of the pack because they believe that they've learned everything and they're not, growing, because basically the quote is, if you're not growing every single day, you're dying. So kind of talk about like that and like how that could you actually have like everything in you, but like you're actually limiting yourself from actually being 1% when you actually have the obtainability to get it. Yeah,
I mean, look, that's a great point. 1% is a journey at all times. It's a journey with an actual destination, which is cool, but you can't, it's not a finality, right? It's not like a marathon. I crossed the line, I collapsed, but I did it and I'm done, right? So the 1%er it's a journey. I got to get there, but then I have to stay there, right? Sort of like playing professional sports. I got to the NFL, but if I want to stay here, I got to keep working, right?
A whole nother game.
So a whole nother game. You got to keep working. So there are people like you described, those old wily veterans, and sales is a perfect example. I want to punch every fucking one of these clowns in the face. And if you're listening, you old fuck, listen good. You suck at what you do. You're not that freaking good. Get over yourself. Get over your sorry ass self. Take off those stupid black tasseled shoes that you wear and that stupid ass tie from the 80s and accept the fact the world has changed and no one cares about how long you've been doing it and how you were selling back in the days when no one gives a shit. Those people have got to get their shit together. And sales is filled with them, dog. Filled with them.
Oh,
they stopped learning. They stopped learning. They had a couple of big deals. They sold some big ones. Their resume looks great. People call them all the time. But the truth of the matter is they're dying on the vine every day, and their attitude is the main cause. They aren't progressive. They don't accept change. And for whatever it is, they lack the humility that I told you about before to say, hey, things are changing, and I don't know this new concept of content marketing very well, or I don't know this new concept of social selling very well, or I don't really understand, or I'm not really good at this collaborative pursuit team selling. So I need to really open up to it. I need to no, I know, and God forbid I say that I'm not that good. No, they lack the humility that is required to grow, and that's what happens.
That's really big. And so how does one get more humble, right? Like I think that's a great point to bring up here right now. Like, how do you go about that? Is it like, hey, look, I just need to be more humble? Like, should I follow someone? Like, how do I do that if I'm not like vibing with what you're saying and I don't want to grow?
You know what? I don't know how one becomes more humble. I think is psychology, and maybe I should go read up on that. What clicked it for me. So a lot of times we know things, but we don't put labels to them, right? And in my ski camp this week, it's funny we're having this conversation now, I put humility towards learning and growth.
Right.
And the reason is I'm a 1% skier, right? You go on the ski slope, you find 100 skiers. It's easy. I ski better than I want 100. Probably 1 out of 1,000, right? But when I went to the ski camp, and this is my 3rd year, I'm skiing with current and ex-Olympians, World Cuppers,
right.
And I suck. Like, I'm terrible, right? So I am changing my entire mogul skiing methodology and approach. I could do it, but I wasn't doing it well, and I wasn't doing it right.
Right.
And so this camp was a very painful camp because I wasn't skiing well, right? I'm moving from doing it this way to this way, right? So I couldn't keep a line as long as I wanted to. I was falling more than I wanted to. I just looked terrible. And it was really painful and embarrassing because here I am, Mr. Badass Skier. I'm a mess. I look like a fool. It hit me like after the 3rd day, Jim, you're changing. Everything you're doing is different. That's going to take time. So Stop worrying about what other people think. Stop worrying about whether or not you're badass. Like, let all that go and know this is part of your journey. And as you perfect this, you're going to come out of this better and further than where you were before. And the metaphor I gave myself is this. If you ever, remodeled a house?
I haven't.
Okay, but the idea, right?
The idea, yes.
It doesn't look bad. People seem to like it. I'm comfortable in it. I decide that I'm going to remodel it. What do I have to do? I have to tear down walls, rip stuff out. During the remodel, does it look very good?
No.
Doesn't look good at all.
Not at all.
And so, but you have to move through that remodel process. And you can't worry about the fact that it looks like shit or that it's uncomfortable or whatever, but know that when you're done, it's going to look better than it did before the remodel. You have to take a step back to take a step forward. And the only way to do that with your personal self is to have the humility to say, I'm willing to look worse or be worse for a short period of time in order to be better.
I love that. And I think that like people would rather, stay in a nice home in a nice area, right? Metaphorically speaking, than instead of remodeling that home to make it expand and look nicer. Because people don't want to go through that process where they're slipping up and not understanding what they're doing, especially if you've been in the game for a long time and you're like, I don't want to learn something new and already have to kind of like trip up through the stuff that I already learned. So I think that's a great point.
Yep. I mean, it's like this, my t-shirt says, hack you, man. You've got to learn to hack yourself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just don't really understand that. And kind of going in from an SDR standpoint, what I guess like hacking yourself and being 1%er, but you're starting off in an entry role. Like, how do you start that process, knowing that you're starting from essentially the bottom of the organization?
Well, that's the advantage. Like, I don't agree, but I get it with old salty veterans, right? They went through that whole process. It's sort of like me. I spent, holy shit, now 33 years skiing, right? Started when I was 16 or 17. And I came all the way up and skiing, you know, for the most part, go better. So that was easy. Beginning, you're not supposed to be good, you're learning. You're medium, you're not supposed to be that good, you're learning. Yeah. But once you get to an expert, and then you got to go back, that's the hard part. As an SDR, look, if you're not walking in thinking this is everything and only about learning, and I got to be getting everything I can, then you're an idiot, right? I mean, your whole existence should be growth in learning and working to be a 1%er, and try to be a 1%er SDR. Forget about sales rep or account executive. No, forget that. Just become an SDR 1%er. That's easy. I mean, you didn't know anything when you came in the first place. So you're a real dumbass if you can't do it.
The reason I do ask that is because I think that what happens is that when people get in the SDR role, they're so focused on getting promoted that they want to become the 1% AE before they even became the 1% SDR. So I'm saying, like, that's the perspective that I kind of want you to touch on, because I feel like a lot of people are like, I want to be the 1% AEs. Like, you're not even like doing well SDR wise. So kind of talk about that. Yeah.
My dad used to say that. He's like, look, why don't you get good at what you're doing before you worry about what you want to do next?
Yeah.
Think about it. It's a real simple equation. You become the 1%er SDR, you will then become an AE, and you'll be at the bottom of that AE barrel, and that'll give you a chance to become a 1%er AE. How about just be freaking damn good SDR first?
Right.
Become the best SDR in your company. And here's the other thing about it. I say 1%er, right? Not 1% of your company. So if you're working for a company that only has 12 SDRs, then not only do you have to be better than those 12, that only makes you a 10%er. You got to be so far ahead of the rest of those SDRs to be a 1%er, because that's 1% of all the SDRs in the country.
Right.
Yes. So that's all an SDR. Anybody moving into that role, all you should recognize is a massive paid training program. That's what an SDR is. It's a massive sales paid training program. Fucking maximize that shit, please.
Yeah. And why do you feel like people are not maximizing that?
Because they're like, sort of like I said earlier, they're looking too far down the end of the road, right? They're looking, you know, I want a beautiful house somewhere. I want this. They're looking way the frick down the road, right? I mean, you know, another metaphor I like to use is, you know, I like to travel, and I took my kids to Paris recently, and I've done other stuff. But you ever get in a road trip and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get to California. Well, me neither, but that's 16 hours away. So I better figure out how I'm going to enjoy the 16 hours, or it's going to be a miserable experience.
Right.
Right. So that's why the really smart moms and dads, they bring games, right? They map out sites along the way to see. They make sure that the kids have things so they can enjoy the trip. Right? You got it. You can't get there without going here. So great. Look at that shit down the road, but then map out the process to get there. Don't just try to look past the 16 hours and into California.
Yeah.
It's a miserable 16 hours, man. And that's only from Colorado. It could be even worse if you're coming from Tennessee or some shit.
Yeah, for sure. Too far out, and then you're definitely in trouble.
Yeah, you know, I mean, to steal a Vaynerism, you got to work micro but think macro.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, right? Is that, like, a lot of people aren't even thinking that way, and then also, like, you also have leaders that aren't 1% leaders, right? So obviously, if you are coming in an organization and you're like, I want to learn, but your leader isn't even a 1%er, it's gonna be hard for you to be that 1%er unless you have that innate, or unless someone else is telling you need to step up as well.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on that one, and here's why. Okay, in 1993, I would have agreed with you. Okay, there were no cell phones, there was no internet. You got most of your access through your company, right? There's SDR Chronicles. I don't know if I froze up, but we have SDR Chronicles, right? So there's the internet. You can just go to SDR Chronicles and watch a freaking episode once a day for 20 minutes or half hour or hour, however long these things are, and you're already halfway ahead of the curve. Already. You don't need other people anymore. Now, Other people are valuable. I highly recommend you get other people.
Right.
But if you're in a situation where you work with a bunch of clowns and your leadership's a clown and the company's a clown, fine. Go out to the internet. Follow you, Anthony Iannarino, Trish Bertuzzi, Matt Hines. I mean, I could go on for hours. There is absolutely no freaking excuse why you can't improve in 2017. None.
Yeah, no, I like the way you staged that. And the reason I did bring up that point, because I want to see how you respond to that. And also, the biggest thing, I think, is that, like, those people aren't seeing it that way, right? They're just seeing it as in, like, I'm in this organization, right? And I'm like, I've been told certain things, and, like, I'm not going to go outside and learn more and basically upsert what's happening. But I think you bring up a great point that, like, at the end of the day, like, you can literally Google search, like, how to do this, how to do that, and it's there. It's not like,
why not? Why wouldn't they? If people are saying that, why aren't they?
Why are they not Google searching and finding those things?
Yeah, you said if they're in this situation, as you just described, where their company's not helping them out, their leader's a clown, blah, 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 and you said, and they're just not going out and learning on their own, why?
They're afraid. And
okay.
So the biggest thing that I think, and we can have a conversation on this, but I think what happens is that people get information and then they get excited about the information, but now they're entitled to that information, which means that now that they have the information to succeed, if they do not succeed, they don't have an excuse of why they actually didn't succeed, instead of blaming other people and being the victim.
Well, yeah, but it's their fault, right? I mean, I hate to sound so cold. Say hi.
What's up? No, but like, I think that's the perception though, right?
This is my youngest. Okay, she has a growth mindset.
Right.
Right? She has a growth mindset. How old are you, Ava?
7.
Plays with 9-year-olds in a competitive soccer league because she is so much better than the other kids her age. I talked to her coach the other day. He said she does things to improve on the field, including talks to herself, which I did not know, that most 7-year-olds don't do. Right? So some people are just innate, like, I want to get better. She was out there by herself on our front lawn, kicking the soccer ball around cones at 7, right? Huh, kiddo? You like your soccer? All right, wave goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Right? So some people, it's just innate. They're going to get it. Other people have to figure out a way to anchor themselves in it. And whether it's fear, whether it's, I don't know, something happened in your childhood, I don't know. But you got to anchor yourself in the idea that says, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my own personal growth. And if I can get people who will help me, that's a plus. If I was born in an environment or I found a company that was supportive and gave me more tools, that's a plus. Excuse me, that's a plus.
Good.
But if I don't have that, I only have one of two choices. Do it myself or languish. That's it. Net it out, people. Net that shit out. Most people choose to languish and blame.
Boom. And that's all the value from Keenan right there. As we go into the final question that I ask every single person that comes on the Chronicles, what is their number one piece of advice that you give to SDRs as they enter into their new roles?
I'm going to go with what I said before. Okay, two pieces. One is very tactical.
Okay.
Listen, SDR, your job as an SDR is not to make the sale. Your job is to get the meeting, which means the meeting is your sale. As an SDR, you're selling meetings, which means you have to ask yourself, am I providing enough value that somebody would take a meeting, would give up 30 minutes of their time? Can I provide enough value that equates to 30 minutes? That's your job, and that's all you should be focused on.
Right.
30 minutes of value. The other thing I would say to SDRs is what I said earlier. Look, this is a paid training program. They know you don't have experience. They know you're new. They know you're just coming in and learning. So you have more rooms to make mistakes. They're giving you the tools you need. Leverage it. Don't try to be the next big AE. Try to be the best SDR you can by maximizing the fact that this is a training space and everybody knows it.
Love it. Well, Keenan, thank you so much for coming on the Chronicles today. Love what you had to say. I know that everyone will get a little bit of punch in the face from a couple of stuff you said. I think it was a reality check for people to step up and become 1%ers. So as I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.